All right, good afternoon. I will call this May 27, 2025 hybrid meeting of the Board of Finance to order. Commissioner Benson will be appearing via Zoom, and everyone else is here in person, so we will be using roll call votes today. First up, I move to approve the November 12, 2024 Board of Finance minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from the Vice Chair. Seeing no discussion, if I could get a roll call vote, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Frank Baca.
Yes.
Commissioner Walt Benson.
Commissioner Benson is not online.
Commissioner Barbara Baca.
Yes.
Vice Chair Barboa.
Yes.
Chair Olivas.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, passes 4-0. And next up, we have County Treasurer Eichenberg to present to the Board of Finance. Welcome, Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Forgive my naivety here, but I haven't been before the Board of Finance in some 4 decades, so I'm still working through some of that nervousness, so I hope you'll understand. We're going to jump really quick to the agenda is on the first part, then the introduction, and that's pretty much what I'm going to do because Ryan Travelstead actually does the investment program for the Treasurer's Office. So I'll turn it over to Ryan in a few minutes. But I'd also like to introduce some of the other staff. In the back, if you just raise your hand, that's Bryce on the left and Aline on the right, and Dennis here in front, and then Michael over here on your far right. And they're the people that do the work. But one of the things, and I did not send this to the county manager, but I was hoping to invoke your guys' help in helping my office. And that's when we get to page 1. And let me flip over, well, that's what's page 1 there. What we do in the Treasurer's Office basically is we collect 484,000 property tax payments. And for a total of about $907 million. That's what I was elected to do. That's what the job set up for with the Constitution of the state. We like doing that. That's our job. But one of the things that we also do for the county is bullet point number 2, which is the 3rd largest general fund revenue source for the county, which is the investment program. And with that, we're still scheduled and hoping to raise more than $31 million more for you in this fiscal year as we work towards next fiscal year as well. Keeping in mind that interest rates are coming down a little bit, and so is the amount of funds that we have to invest. A lot of that's because of the expenditures of some of the ARPA funds and what have you. We review 53 bank accounts, 40,000 transactions annually, that the departments like the clerks, the sheriffs, the fire, the planning, parks, and a couple of others. So here's my ask, and that's on page 2, is that you help us reduce the time it takes to recruit and to hire. Redundancy is a kind of a word that, depending on where you are, some like it, some don't. In private practice, we don't want a whole lot of redundancy because it just costs more money. But in county government, it's important. And the only audit infraction that we had was because we didn't have enough eyes looking at the same transaction. So we need that redundancy, and we're 6 employees short. We want to fill them, but we have the difficulty that we're having with it is the job description is not always what exactly the person does in the job. So HR will throw out a range. It could be from 40,000 to 80,000, but the midpoint is 55, and that's all they want to hire those employees at. And so I've had one conversation with the county manager, and I would have liked to have seen a little bit higher salary for that individual. We have just contracted with an independent metric analysis group to come in and actually look at what our employees do. And we're hoping that that gets done by the, end of July, and that we can come back to you at the next, maybe a commission meeting, sometime that's convenient for you, to kind of show you if the metrics show what I think they'll show, which is the employees in the treasurer's office, because of the differences of what we do and the financial difficulties that and the stress that they're under, that we should be able to hire a little bit more and pay a little bit more. Our general customer service clerk does a lot more than what is just advertised in the HR department. So that's what I'm here to ask for. That's my ask. And any questions I'm happy to answer. But I know we're here to look at what's going on in the treasurer's office, and especially specifically the financial investment program. And I'm going to turn that over to Ryan. And you can see the gray hair the man's got. I took this from him a week ago. I made my notes on it. I did my small presentation and said, I think I can get this down to about 10 minutes, Ryan. And he's just freaking out that the treasurer is actually going to go through these 20 slides. So in not wanting to freak him out before he goes on vacation tomorrow, we're going to let him make the presentation to you. You're used to it. You've heard it 24 times. So I think it'll go even more smoothly. So thank you. Thank you, members of the commission, for allowing me to make my request.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Any questions now, or we can always circle back? All right.
It's whatever you want to do, Commissioner. Do you have any questions of me?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Finance, as usual, my name is Ryan Travelstead, Deputy Treasurer under Treasurer Eichenberg. We're going to jump right into the standard report that we've gone through a handful of times. Some subtle tweaks in order. And this one, the first slide I'll go through is a new addition. It really highlights our guiding principles. And I think it's important to start with this because this really shapes all of the decisions we make in the Treasurer's office. So that first guiding principle is always going to be safety. So are the taxpayer resources that we're in custody of safe? And that goes all the way down to, is the vault locked at the end of the day? Are the courier that comes to pick up deposits, is that person recognized? Are they on that list? So it runs the gamut of all of our operations. The second consideration is liquidity. And what that means is, do we have enough cash on hand to pay bills? We don't want to be caught in a situation to where we have to pay $100,000, but hey, actually we only have $100 in the bank account, and that's not a good situation to be in. So we're regularly monitoring that. And then the final guiding principle is yield. So right when we have excess cash, we want to invest that excess cash to earn a little bit of yield so that we can use that so that the commission can make other decisions on projects and fund other different cool things happening within the community. The next slide I've spoken with each of you about previously. I can go into it if you have other questions, but I can just glance over it. Jump through to the next slide. Back to the reorganization of some of the slides here, and it really reorganized based off of those three guiding principles: safety, liquidity, and yield. I'll come back to those on each slide. So this collateral review slide, it's really based off that safety principle. What this is when we have bank deposits in with a bank, if we have a balance that's over the FDIC insurance amount, we want to make sure that the bank has collateral pledged for those balances. So in the event that the bank goes under, we get custody of that collateral so that then we can recoup some of our balances. And so this slide here highlights those 5 accounts that have a balance over the FDIC insurance amount. Everything the collateral was pledged up to the statutory requirements, aside from the MDC Healthcare Authority bank account. They're that 0.8 in red. So you can see the collateral requirement for that bank account. Wells Fargo should have had 1.8 million pledged, but they only had 0.8 million, so 800,000 pledged. So what that tells us is if Wells Fargo went out of business on March 31st, we would get $800,000. They had 3.6 million of our dollars. So anyway, this is something that we monitor regularly. It's very common that there could be an ACH that comes in at the last part of the day that the bank can't pledge collateral against because markets are closed. So that's exactly what this scenario was. It just happened to occur on the March 31st. Our team here, as Treasurer Eichenberg described, this is the four people, sorry, Treasurer Eichenberg's got my mental math there off. But the four people you see here, they're the ones reviewing the collateral every day to make sure, hey, are our balances pledged? So yeah, small and dedicated team. That was corrected. The 0.8 million collateral deficiency was corrected on April 1st, which is normal. Jumping over to the next slide, we'll jump into property tax collections. Property tax collections are consistent with previous fiscal years. They continue to remain strong. The next slide here is our percentage collection relative to prior years. You can see 2024, we're at 60% collected as of March 31st. But don't forget, we collect in 2 equal installments, November, December, April, and May. So we actually just finished the May collection cycle, and that's up to around 95.5% roughly as of today. We can switch gears over to the gross receipts tax. Let me back up. The reason I like to look at the property tax and gross receipts tax slides is that liquidity element to know how, as money comes in, are we getting what we think we're going to bring in, so that we know what we're going to that we'll have enough cash to pay the bills that are coming up. So as of March 31st, you can see here the different colored lines. The yellow line at the top is the current fiscal year, and so you can see it kind of trending and bouncing around. It's all within normal ranges, 4.6 million higher than fiscal year 24, which is 2.27% over fiscal year 24. And I actually ran the numbers right before the meeting for April and May, and through May, we're actually up 7.7 million relative to fiscal year 2024, which is a 3% increase. We'll give you the final numbers there as of June at the next quarterly meeting, but gross receipts tax is still looking pretty stable. Relative to the budget, I think if you look on the right-hand bar chart there, that 284.9 million, that's the budget that we have for gross receipts tax. We might come in just a little under that based off of how things are looking. So if we want to meet that 284, we'd have to collect around 29 million in gross receipts tax in the month of June, which I don't think that's going to happen. So I think it's maybe 5-ish million underneath that, potentially. Again, it's all based off of business activity that's occurred. So in June, that would be business activity of March. So I go to the grocery store, I shouldn't say groceries because there's no tax there. So I say I go to Lowe's to go buy lumber. There's the 7 cents on the dollar roughly. Lowe's pays that 7 cents to the state. I buy that in March. Lowe's in April, Lowe's sends that to the state in May, and then the state sends it to the county in June. So this is already business activity that's occurred. We don't really know what that is, and so we'll just wait to see what that distribution from the state will be. Property tax budget to actual is looking on very strong. I'm optimistic that we're going to meet budget and slightly exceed that. The next slide is our portfolio balances. You can show as of the end of March, our total par amount was 719.8 million. And if you look there on the far right column, the book yield and how those different portfolios are structured and the yield that we're earning on each one of those portfolios. And this next slide, I like to look at it because this takes out a lot of the noise, as I like to call it. The noise that I'm referring to is the property tax that we collect on behalf of other entities. So we'll collect property taxes in month 1. We distribute those out to the other taxing entities in month 2. So if we strip out that amount that we're sending to all the entities, it really gives a good, clear picture of what is truly Bernalillo County's cash on hand and how does that trend over time. And so this slide compares March of 2025 to March of 2024, and then also December of 2024. So each year there's definitely some cycles that we can see. But anyway, it's a really high-level picture. You can see from March 2025, we ended with 710 million after we stripped out the property tax distribution to the entities, and relative to March of 2024 at 752 million. So around 40 million decrease there. A lot of that is going to be attributed to the drawdown of the ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act, balances. And this next slide, if you're an accountant, you love it with all the graphs and the different colors. But this shows that number that I was just referring to, the total cash balances after we strip out the property tax collections on behalf of other entities. So it really can kind of see that picture of how the county's cash balances have trended over the last 5 years. So if you see on the far left, March of 2020, we had roughly 460 million. Then you see in March 2021, the big injection, and the orange piece grows, and it slowly starts to grow up to around March 2024. And I think we're at the peak. We probably start to see cash balances start to come down, mainly because that ARPA money, we're going to start spending that, and that was a one-time funding source of around $130 million. The other thing is the opioid money is there in that yellow colored section of the graph. And so recently there's been some strategic plans that have been put in place. And so on the Treasurer's Office side, I'm looking at those to get an idea of when will money leave the door so that we can know how to better structure those investment portfolios to kind of meet those needs. The main thing I want to highlight here is that top dotted line across for the current core portfolio balance is around 500 million. But over the next year and a half, it's going to come down to around 400, maybe 350. It just kind of depends on how fastly and aggressively we spend down some of those cash balances. Anyway, we're keeping an eye on that. Just want to get that on your radar that if you start to see that 500 million come down, don't be alarmed. It's something that we're expecting. The next several slides, you've seen them previously. These all hit on the safety, liquidity, and yield piece. So safety is what type of investment they're in. Liquidity is how far out are they invested and are they easily convertible into cash. And so the yield piece is essentially in a normal rate environment, the longer term investments will earn a little bit more than shorter term investments. So anyway, we have our portfolio structured to where the highly liquid bucket is really short term. So we want that to be able to pay bills rapidly. The next bucket here is the cash matched bucket. And what this is it's cash on hand that we have that we use to fund the payroll and debt service outflows. So we know what our payroll is going to be every 2 weeks. It's going to be around $8 million every 2 weeks. So we know that's going to come up for the next 2 weeks for the next year. So when we have these large injections of property tax receipts, we'll use some of that money to then buy investments for those specific dates. And next slide here is talking about our core portfolio. So this is the actively managed. This is essentially, we can think of it as our savings account, but it's not truly a set it and forget it. It can fluctuate as we see balances adjust. And finally, our bond proceeds detail. And what this is as voters approve the county to sell bonds, the county sells those bonds, and in between the time that we sell the bonds to when we start paying the contractors to do the work, the Treasurer's Office will invest those proceeds to help those projects go a little bit further. And finally, this slide here really hits on that liquidity piece, so you can see where our investments are maturing and to make sure that we have enough liquidity coming in to pay bills. So more than sufficient liquidity. This does include the property tax distribution to other entities that we collected in March, which I believe was $9.5 million. So that was going to be in that the gray section there. And finally, our investment income numbers. So far, fiscal year to date, $24.3 million. And from my estimations, we're going to be around $31.8 million for the fiscal year. And of that, it's roughly around 60 to 65% that reverts to goes to the general fund. So roughly 19 to 20-ish million dollars that we're planning for there. And with that, there's a new slide here. The county previously, if I scroll back to the core portfolio detail, you see here on the bottom line, there's that supranational line. So the county had $61 million in supranational investments as of March 31st. But on April 9th, we sold those holdings at a gain for $477,000. And the idea behind that sale was the main reason is we needed the cash as we've drawn down some of those ARPA balances. So we started to notice a little bit of stress in our cash matched portfolio where the property tax proceeds weren't investing out as far as we would have liked. So that's a sign to say, hey, something's happening. We go look at the cash balances. We see those cash balances coming down, mainly in the ARPA fund. So we need to reduce the size of the core portfolio to essentially replenish what we're spending. And so that's what the main reason there. Secondary reason was also there's some of the uncertainty in Washington, D.C. with international groups. And so if the White House was to pull support for these supranational organizations, I'm not sure what that would do with the liquidity or the safety. Maybe not super impactful on the safety side of things, but on the liquidity side, that could impact us. So anyway, we decided, hey, we can't really assess that risk. We need the cash. Let's sell it. We can sell it at a gain. Let's sell it and walk away from them. So that's one thing that's different in this most recent quarter, which Frank, if he's on from Government Portfolio Advisors, will go into the strategy for the coming quarter, which that piece is the idea would be to drop that strategic asset allocation on the supras from 10% down to 0. And with that, I can turn it over to Frank. Frank, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you, Ryan, for walking us through that. It looks like we have the presentation coming back up.
Yes. With, Frank, if you're having trouble seeing the presentation, I can walk through it if you'd like.
Is it being presented right now?
I can see it, but I'm not sure if you can see it on Zoom.
What page are we on?
Page 21, the target range slide.
Yes. So if you could, yeah, I do see it now. Okay, so I'll be able to see it. Thank you. So let me introduce myself. My name is Frank McDonald with Government Portfolio Advisors, and in this meeting, what we want to do is go over strategy of the previous quarter and any changes making to that strategy going forward. And if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to stop me. So this slide is walking through, as Ryan mentioned, there's really 3 active strategy portfolios that we're focused on. And this slide is where we establish the balance ranges that we're going to look through throughout the quarter. From the end of this quarter to the present quarter, we have made no changes from the previous quarter. And then if we look at the bottom slides in terms of the current quarter, this is where we compare the actual balances with what our ranges are. And you can see that the highly liquid as well as the core, the highly liquid more so, was slightly over its range, which means we're going to reallocate those proceeds to balanced portfolios. You can take us to the next slide. There you go. So this is looking at the cash match portfolio. As Ryan had mentioned, the goal here is we work closely to lay out what the expectations are of cash outflows for the year between payrolls and debt service. As of quarter end, if you look at the bottom of the slide, there was 91 million maturing within the next 3 months. We're hence mostly through that. So we've been rolling those maturities out the year to match the cash flows that have been provided, and that strategy continues to proceed going forward. Next slide. All right, so here we have a look at the core portfolio. We have made no changes, so we continue to maintain on the top left. The current portfolio duration is 2.4 years versus our benchmark of 2.5 years. We continue to try to manage our portfolio closely to the benchmark as it continues to roll down the curve. As Ryan had mentioned, we are aware of ARPA balance drawdowns, and since the end of this quarter, which is when we publish this, the portfolio has decreased to about 428 million. And we also just want to point out that we're in the process of building out the 5 to 10 year part of the curve. As of today, there's only about 8% of the portfolio invested out that far. And in reflecting on the strategy, we still think it makes a lot of sense, especially within the 10 year. That we're seeing rates that have increased dramatically over the last 2 to 3 months, and we're starting to see 10 year rates prevailing over 4.5%. So I think is going to be an attractive investment strategy going forward. Next slide. So this is a look at the breakdown of the sectors within the core maturity. Ryan had just previously covered this, but yes, we went through a shifting for combination of looking to raise cash to cover some outflows, as well as take advantage of an opportunity with supranationals. There was some uncertainty politically, as Ryan mentioned, and we were fortunate that we were able to get ahead of that, where we traded into what had been historical type spreads for those spread assets. So we actually felt like we got ahead in terms of valuation before any of that uncertainty played out here. And as of today, we are at 0% within the supranationals. Now the bond proceeds account, we take direction directly from the county to deploy these based on the expected cash flow needs. And we reinvest in unison with those directions. And this is just looking out the next 3 months of maturities within the bond proceeds.
Excellent. Thank you, Frank. So now here in summary, just to kind of recap what Frank said. So this slide demonstrates the proposed strategy for the coming quarter. Essentially, we could sum it up as no change from previous quarters, aside from drawing the supranational allocation from 15% down to 0%. And that's the only change there. And with that, that will conclude the presentation, and I can stand for any questions or discussion that there might be.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Travelstead. Commissioners? Any questions? I guess I'm just curious for my own knowledge with the treasury rates that I understand are increasing, especially on the longer terms, like 30-year, but I know we're not going that far out. It sounds like we're expecting, even though rates are dropping in the shorter term, with the deficit spending and those kinds of things, we're expecting those yields to kind of hold up on those longer term, and that's why we're moving more towards that 5 to 10.
Mr. Chair, that's an excellent question. I might go back a couple of slides just to demonstrate a few things here. So here what I'm showing is the core detail. What this is these are investments that the county already owns, and these are fixed rate investments. So whatever happens in the market, we have these rates locked in. The goal is not to build that 10-year or 5 to 10 year, not to increase that capacity. It's going to keep that strategic size based off of what our cash flows can allow. And so as, say, a 5-year rolls down and turns into a 3-year, in a couple of years, as the maturity that happens on today, that might be redeployed in that 5 to 10 year range, but keeping that same overall size static. So if we see here on this slide on the, I wonder if the mouse works. Yeah, here we go. So on the 7 to 10 year, 5 to 7 and 7 to 10, we're not going to increase that more than the 6% or 2% because we don't think, in my opinion, that's not why the county exists. I think the county exists to provide services to residents. If we're having funds invested out 10 years, that's not providing services. But the caveat there is that we have to have these required DFA reserves. So if we have those reserves, we might as well invest them to earn a little bit more yield. That yield we see in the current year. So then conceptually, we can use that higher current year yield to provide services to those residents based off those required reserves. Does that help answer?
Yes,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Commissioners, any other questions? And I would just say to the treasurer's presentation on the staffing, duly noted, and I think it's something that we can circle back with when your staffing study is completed and working with the county manager to see how we can address that for your department, but countywide as well, because we have a lot of positions that are unnecessarily difficult to recruit for, perhaps, and so we may need to take another look. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I move to give advice and consent to the proposed quarterly investment strategy as outlined in the Board of Finance report. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second from the Vice Chair. Any further discussion? Seeing none, is Commissioner Benson on? Okay, so we'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor, signal in the affirmative. Yes? That passes on a 4-0 vote. And so with that, Tuesday, August 19, 2025 will be our next Board of Finance meeting at 4 p.m. here in the Ken Sanchez Commission chambers. If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.